Long ago, in a beautiful place called the Garden of Eden, everything was bright and peaceful. The trees were full of sweet fruits, the flowers bloomed in every color, and the rivers sparkled like glass. There was no sadness, no fear, only joy, love, and the gentle presence of God. In this perfect garden lived Adam, the very first man God had made. God had given Adam a special job, to care for the garden and all the animals that lived there. One morning, as the sun rose and warmed the earth, God brought the animals to Adam so he could give each one its name. Adam smiled as a gentle creature with big brown eyes and long legs walked toward him. "You will be called Deer," Adam said kindly, and the deer nodded its graceful head before leaping into a meadow of tall grass. Next came a soft, woolly animal with a quiet baa. "You will be called Sheep," Adam said, reaching out to touch its fluffy coat. The sheep bleated happily and wandered over to a field of clover. Then came a great animal with a mane like the sun and a roar that shook the ground. "You will be called Lion," Adam said with wonder. The lion let out a mighty roar, but its eyes were gentle. It walked quietly to lie down in the shade of a tree. There were birds that sang sweet songs and butterflies that danced through the air. Adam named each one carefully. "You are Dove," he said to the pure white bird that cooed softly on his shoulder. "You are Butterfly," he said to the bright winged creatures that fluttered by his face. The animals loved Adam and loved the garden where they lived. There was plenty of food for everyone, and all the animals were friends. The lambs played with the lions, and the rabbits hopped along beside the wolves without fear. Eve, the first woman God made, walked with Adam among the animals. Together they fed the birds, petted the gentle beasts, and watched the fish swim in the clear rivers. "This is a beautiful home," Eve said. Adam smiled. God made it perfect for us all. Every evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with pink and orange, Adam and Eve sat quietly with the animals nearby. The deer rested, the birds sang softly, and even the lion purred peacefully as it lay close by. God's love was all around them. The animals knew they were safe, and they were happy to be in the garden God had made. And Adam and Eve were thankful for the friends God had given them, both big and small. As the stars twinkled in the sky and the garden grew quiet, everyone rested peacefully, knowing they were part of God's wonderful creation. The end. In the beautiful Garden of Eden, everything was peaceful and full of joy. The animals lived happily together, resting under tall trees and playing in green meadows. Adam and Eve cared for them with love, and the animals loved them too. Every day, they walked through the garden, knowing they were safe because God was with them. But there was one tree in the garden that Adam and Eve were told not to touch, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God had told them, "You may eat from every tree in the garden, but not this one." And Adam and Eve listened. They told their animal friends, "We stay away from that tree because we trust what God said." The animals nodded. The deer grazed quietly nearby, and the birds sang sweet songs. The lion purred as it lay in the grass, and the sheep rested close to Eve's feet. Everyone was happy and safe. But one day, something changed. The animals watched as a serpent, smooth and shiny, slithered near the forbidden tree. It was not like the other animals. It was clever and sneaky, and it did not listen to God. The serpent spoke softly to Eve as she walked by the tree. "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" the serpent asked in a silky voice. The dove, sitting in the branches nearby, ruffled its feathers nervously. It cooed quietly, hoping Eve would keep walking. Eve answered, "God said we may eat from every tree except this one. If we eat from it, we will surely die." The serpent's eyes gleamed. "You will not die," it whispered. "If you eat the fruit, you will be like God. You will know good and evil." The animals watched with wide eyes. The lion shook his great mane and growled softly. The deer stamped its foot. The little rabbit hid behind a rock. They wished Eve would walk away. They trusted God's words and knew it was best to obey him. But Eve looked at the fruit. It was shiny and red. She reached out slowly and picked one from the branch. Then she took a bite. The animals grew still. Asa the lion lowered his head sadly. Tirzah the dove flew away into the trees. Even the gentle sheep moved quietly, not sure what would happen next. Eve gave the fruit to Adam, and he ate it too. Right away, things changed in the garden. Adam and Eve felt sad and afraid. They hid from God, and the animals felt the sadness too. The peace of the garden was gone. But even on that sad day, God's love was still there. He cared for Adam and Eve. He made them clothes and gave them hope for the future. The animals knew that one day God would make things right again. And as the stars came out that night, the animals rested, waiting for God's promise of love and rescue. The end. In the Garden of Eden, everything had once been perfect. The animals lived in peace, and Adam and Eve walked with God. There was no fear or sadness, only joy and love. But after Adam and Eve ate the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, things changed. The animals could feel it. The lion, who once purred gently, now felt something different in his heart. The deer no longer played as freely, and the birds sang quieter songs. Something was different in their beautiful home. One morning, Adam and Eve stood at the entrance to the garden with tears in their eyes. God was loving, but he was also holy and just. Because they had disobeyed his command, they could no longer stay in the garden. "You must leave Eden now," God said gently, "but I will still love you. I will take care of you." The animals gathered around them. Zasha the zebra nudged Eve softly. Asa the lion stood close to Adam. The little dove, Tirzah, fluttered down and perched on Eve's shoulder for a moment. "Goodbye, my friends," Eve whispered, stroking Tirzah's feathers. "We will miss you," Adam said, as he scratched behind Asa's ears. Noah the elephant let out a soft trumpet sound, and the rabbits hopped quietly behind the bushes. Even the tiny ants stopped to watch. Then God did something kind. He made clothes to keep Adam and Eve warm on their journey. It was a new world they were walking into, different from the garden. There would be hard work, and they would have to plant and grow their own food. But God was still with them. "I will send help one day," God promised. "One who will make things right again." The animals didn't understand everything, but they believed God's words. As Adam and Eve walked away from Eden, they looked back one last time. The garden gates were closed now, guarded by a bright, shining angel with a flaming sword. No one could go back in, but they carried with them the love of God in their hearts. The animals watched from outside the garden, feeling a new kind of sadness. But they also had hope. They remembered God's promise. One day, God would send a savior. One day, everything would be made new again. And so, the animals went on living in the world outside Eden, just as Adam and Eve did. There were hard days and easy days, but God was always near. He watched over them, just as He watches over us. And when the stars shone in the sky that night, the animals of Eden closed their eyes, resting in the hope that God's love never ends. The end.